Welcome everybody to the Energy Newsbeat podcast. And I'll tell you, this is really exciting. If you listen to us, that I'm a political geo news junkie. And today we have a very special guest. We have Irina Slav from Bulgaria. And I mean, I've been such a big fan of her writing on oilprice.com and now her Substack newsletters coming out. So welcome this morning, Irina.
Hello, nice to see you.
Oh, again, thank you for jumping on. I just got so much. I looked up your LinkedIn background and you're in Bulgaria. And what prompted you to be an energy writer?
It wasn't really a deliberate decision. I was working at a daily newspaper, just a regular daily newspaper, and I got a proposition from a news agency to start work there. And my work there included covering energy news from Russia and the former Soviet Union. So that's how it started. It was oil and gas and mining. Oh, wow. And I found I was interested in this topic. And later on, when I went freelance, I left the corporate world with a sigh of relief. It was, it was fate, really.
Well, so as a freelance, tell us how that works. You write for, I believe, oilprice.com and a few others as well. And that looks like it's going well.
It is going well. It's going really great. Well, I was contacted by an editor from Oil Price to start writing articles for them, and it's been going on for, what is it? I started in 2016, I believe. So occasionally I have written for other publications, and now I've started my own newsletter on Substack for my more opinionated pieces, because I needed an outlet for my more, should I say, controversial opinions.
Oh, we're going to get into that in a minute. But, I want to give a shout out to you for your, I want to say industry thought leadership. And if anybody, we're going to have the Substack, how to sign up for your newsletter, because I'm enjoying it. And I make comments on there, and I have fun doing that. So
I really appreciate this.
And everybody needs to sign up for your opinions and things. So
thank you.
And as we go through, we just had the COP26, and your article last week, or excuse me, your newsletter last week from Substack, I thought was really good. Do you want to give us your opinions on COP26?
I suppose you mean honest opinions?
Absolutely, absolutely.
To me, I'm going to be very blunt. It was a failure from the start.
Good.
There was no other way. They did talk a lot about making commitments, including, importantly, financial commitments. But what it boils down to is that Europe and the US and Canada want to really go all in on green energy, on renewables, on electric vehicles and all that. And they happen to have the money for now to do it. But the rest of the world, which includes some of the biggest polluters, cannot really afford to do this. I don't even think that Europe can afford to do this. Not with all these ambitious emission reduction targets. So to me, it was basically all talk and not really anything substantial, because they even included coal in the end, in the final agreement. They admitted that countries such as India, they cannot go all in on the green transition without coal, and they will need coal for decades, not for years, but for decades to come.
Yep.
As does, for example, Bulgaria, because if I may give my country as an example,
Yep.
we only have coal
Only.
locally. We do have some natural gas production, but nowhere near enough for the country's needs. But right now, during the energy crisis in Europe, we were exporting electricity to all of our neighbors thanks to our coal-fired plants.
Wow, I did
Yes.
not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
So yeah, even in Europe, countries like Bulgaria, like Poland is a big coal consumer.
Yep.
We still depend on it for our energy independence. Yes, it emits carbon dioxide, it emits more than that.
Right.
But it's the only resource, natural resource that we have locally, and we don't have to rely on imports, which I think is very important for every country.
Wow, that's critical. And you
Yes.
think about and Russia. I do a lousy Putin imitation. I almost sound like an American gangster. Hey, I'm going to supply gas. You know, that's horrible. I mean, that's Texas.
Yeah, he doesn't talk like that. He actually has. Have you heard him speak?
No.
He's a very soft-spoken, literally soft-spoken person.
Wow, I did not know that. He carries such a very large personality when we're out looking at his actions. In America, he comes across as a gangster. So
I know he does, yeah.
and I do a lousy imitation of a gangster for Russia. So I don't know. And so the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, so much gas comes through Russia. And I believe is it going through a lot of the countries to get to there. In this past, I believe, month, the gas started going negative and going the other way back to Russia. And I personally think that was a little ploy from them saying,
Really?
"Oh, wow, by the way, if you don't, get us signed up and certified on the Nord Stream 2 to get the gas going into Germany and help get that volume off." He's in pretty much a lot of control of the price for natural gas, isn't he?
Well, yes, but there was also a lot of speculation on markets. I mean, sure, everybody's blaming Putin and Russia, but I remember Russia's deputy PM, Novak, saying there is enough gas in Europe. Somebody is speculating on the market. You can't just singularly place the blame because you like it, you place it on Russia. Right. And he said, if you want more gas, then tell us you want more gas. Don't just expect us to deliver it. So really, it's not as simple as it may look based on mainstream media reports. And yeah.
That is just crazy, because we hear, I think, filtered news. And the only way for us to get true opinions is to listen to great authors like yourself. And so when you take a look at the energy crisis in Europe and Bulgaria, and coal is such an important piece, how's the price for energy or kilowatt per hour or for the consumers in the coal versus the renewable cities and states? It's a lot higher in renewables, right?
Yes, and it's been higher for a while. It's Germany, for example, has one of the highest utility bills, electricity bills, because they pile on renewable energy related taxes. They add this to people's bills to stimulate more renewable energy capacity. But when there's a wind drought or not enough sun, what do? You start up the coal-fired plants. Which is what the UK did. They actually reopened a shut down coal plant.
Yep. And that's what's happening in India and in the US and in California. They have gone greener, if you would, and they've used they're like Germany is, the very leader in their high kilowatt per
The
hour.
Germany of the United States.
And they are thank you, they are the Germany of the United States, and their price per to the consumer is out of the park, and it is horrible for the consumer. And that brings up I wrote things about a year ago, and I said the more renewables we use, the more fossil fuels we use. And the inverse effect is like, people wake up. And it's true. We find out that California is using more coal now than when they were.
Because they are forced to use more coal.
Yes, and it's because also cement requires so much coal. And in our infrastructure bill, we're putting in all this asphalt and cement. Well, you got to use coal in order to do cement, and you got to use oil to do asphalt.
You do need oil to make asphalt, yes, definitely. If you want to repair all those roads, yes.
You bet. And so, how do you see Europe fixing this issue? I mean, because if Bulgaria is able to export energy through selling kilowatt per hour, how do we fix this issue? Your opinions on that?
It's a really tough question. If you want to be delicate, I'm not going to be delicate. I believe that European politicians, EU politicians, need to dial down the ideology. They need to basically get real about things, because do you know which ones are the greenest countries in Europe?
Germany, without question.
No. Emission wise, no. The greenest countries in Europe are Norway and Sweden.
Oh, yes.
And both are very environmentally conscious,
right.
And they're very good at renewable energy, but they have got both a lot of hydropower, which is not exactly solar and wind.
Right.
And Sweden also has a lot of nuclear power,
right.
As does France. And France is greener than Germany because of its nuclear power.
But aren't they shutting down some of their nuclear plants, and they're trying to get rid of them?
Germany is shutting down its nuclear plants.
Wow. Yes.
Because they want to be, I really don't know what the problem is. I think it was because of the risk of a meltdown, however small it may be.
Right.
They have a really strong anti-nuclear lobby there, so they're shutting. France is not going to shut down its nuclear power plants because they supply more than 2/3 of its energy and make it an important exporter of energy.
See, that to me, I don't think we can make the energy transition to renewables without nuclear.
We can't.
And I think in California, they just shut down their only nuclear reactor. They've announced that they're shutting it down 10 years too early.
Why? Why are they doing it?
They're politically morons.
Well, it is clean energy. I mean, I understand the fear of a meltdown, but this is not Chernobyl.
Right.
This is what a lot of people tend to forget, that Chernobyl was a horrible accident.
Right.
As was Fukushima.
Yes.
But you have no 100% risk-free energy or anything, really. You have to live with the risk if you want to be low emission.
And I don't think it's fair to impose our way of life or our energy structures on Africa or any of the poorer countries.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
I think that that's criminal. And I firmly believe that everybody in the world deserves the lowest amount of price for clean energy to get them out of poverty. Energy gets people out of poverty and helps their health. I'm a
or any
humanitarian.
energy, really.
Yes. And so, what are your thoughts on wind? I've heard, and I want to correct, I have to fact check myself all the time. My wife tells me that, I'm wrong all the time. So, um, I've heard, and I just want to make sure that it's the same in Europe, and that is the return on investment for a wind farm is about 10 years. By the time you get the reduction, because you have the cement that goes into it, you have the steel, you have everything else, and all that takes CO2 and everything else to build. And the CO2 break even point is about 10 years. They're supposed to last 20 years, which is nothing. And the meantime between failure, they're failing at 10 years. So it just seems in the US, they're abandoning windmills, wind farms and things. So it just seems kind of weird to me. Is that the
Well,
same?
they just abandoned them.
They have abandoned some because they can't, they're not economically feasible to keep going. The repairs.
Right. I haven't really researched the return on investment period, but I think what we saw earlier this year, all of the major wind turbine producers warning about lower profits because there isn't enough wind.
Right.
I think that's a big risk factor.
Mhm.
Forget about return on investment. What happens when the wind doesn't blow as much as it should?
Oh,
This is what a lot of people, I think, forget. They're just too focused on, oh, it doesn't emit while it operates.
yes.
But as you said, there is the question of return on investment, because this is an investment. It is done by businesses, and businesses exist in order to make profits so they could continue existing.
Exactly.
To put it extremely simply. And by the way, you mentioned Africa. This is actually the reason solar and wind are not really taking off massively in Africa. There's a lot of talk how Africa has huge potential, lots of sun, lots of wind, lots of space.
Right.
But it's not taking off because you have to invest not just in the solar farms and the wind parks, you also need to invest in transmission lines, in a grid. There is no grid. And this investment becomes so massive, like the potential for renewables, that it will be too expensive for the people there, and the investor would never get a return on that investment.
So do you think a solution is localized energy then? And localized energy plants, so they build smaller grids?
It sounds more sensible. It really sounds more sensible. Like mini grids are one option, I think. Yes.
But and when we talk about going renewable, we always hear energy storage, and you got to have the batteries.
You have got to have the batteries, otherwise there's no point to do utility scale solar and wind. There is no point, because you're dependent on the weather all the time.
And so how's the rare earth minerals and the precious minerals in Europe? How's that market going? Because we all know that China has a good chunk of the rare earth minerals. And how is that the rare earth minerals? Because you need rare earth minerals for building grids. You need all of that material in order to go there.
Yeah,
what is the market in Europe for that stuff?
I think it's non-existent. Europe is an importer of rare earths. Yes, well, China has cornered the market, and it's nobody's fault but everyone's who slept through it. I'm sorry, but really, you have to think ahead. This is my biggest personal problem with all these renewable energy plans.
Yep.
Nobody is thinking ahead. They're gathering, talking, saying, okay, we're doing this right now.
Yep.
They're talking about net zero goals by 2050. How will we get there? It sounds so simple. We'll just build more solar and more wind. You can't just build more solar and more wind because you would need batteries to store the energy to replace the base load of the fossil fuel plants. If you can't replace the base load,
Well,
you're not doing anything. You get blackouts.
is there a move in Bulgaria to go any kind of nuclear at all?
Is there a what, sorry?
A move in, is there any talk of
Oh, we have nuclear.
how much of your do you have?
Quite a lot, actually, even though under pressure from green interests, we were forced to close, I think, 4 reactors, so we only have 2 functioning.
That's the same thing they did in California, and New York, the other side of high end, they're I think they're a Germany wannabe. They shut down 2 reactors. I think it was 15 years too early. I don't get that.
And they're probably clapping themselves on the shoulder for a job well done.
I don't get this. I really don't. And France to me always was the leader in green because of just like what you said, they were ahead of the curve
yeah, they bet on nuclear and now it's paying off. I don't think anyone can force them to close their nuclear plants and replace them with solar farms. This will be insanity, literal insanity.
And 20 years of bad energy policy has got the world to this energy crisis right now. COVID. How has COVID affected Bulgaria, and what are your thoughts on how that's impacted the energy demand?
Oh, well, we're doing badly in terms of total casualties of the virus, but I believe there is no single reason for this.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of energy demand, well, it's the same as the rest of the world. Lockdowns led to a drop in energy demand. Then once the lockdowns were lifted, everyone started traveling. It's really no different than the rest of the world.
In Texas, we're all cowboys and we've thrown away our masks and everybody just walks around like normal around here. So
how are you doing on casualties?
I've had COVID twice.
You had it twice?
I've had it twice.
Well done.
And I had the vaccine. So, I've had I got it when it first came on. I sat next to a gentleman from Italy on the plane. His name was Antonio and he was sick. It was in end of January when it first started. Then I got the vaccine and then I got it again. So, but
what's the point?
The vaccine was worthless to me. So, it's like, why take it? I don't. Yeah. But anyway, what are your last thoughts? Give me your energy opinion, and I want just as open as you can possibly be on your thoughts on energy.
Okay. Well, I think we can survive without fossil fuels. Not now, not in 20 years. I can't talk about more than 20 years from now. I think there is a severe shortage of common sense, basic, plain common sense among decision makers. And this is a problem because they are decision makers and our livelihood, our well-being, our electricity bills depend on the decisions they make. I think there is way too much ideology. I think the net zero narrative is turning into something like a religion. which is actually religion and ideology are pretty similar in their principles and the effects they have on populations when they become extreme. And I'm afraid this is what we're seeing. The narrative is becoming more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
You are not allowed to question the right party line. And this is dangerous. We have seen this in the Eastern Europe, in the totalitarian states, which is why I think we're really well placed to have a good look at the actual situation. We don't buy the narrative so easily as people in Western Europe and much of the US, I guess. I do not believe that climate change is the biggest problem that humankind has right now. I think poverty and conflicts are much bigger and much more immediate problems.
Oh, you bet.
Yes, and I think we should start by solving these more immediate problems before we start thinking about our carbon footprint. Oh, and also, if we may, not underestimate nature. I mean, the planet has been here before us, it will be here after us. There have been 5 or was it 6 mass extinction events before we appeared on the scene, and they weren't brought about by fossil fuel caused climate change.
Right.
So yeah, we're being really arrogant about it.
You know, the one thing that I truly appreciate you is your common sense. And thank you. I really appreciate your writings. And we are going to push out all of your contact on LinkedIn, as well as how to get a hold of you on Substack. I recommend your writings for everybody. And thank you for being a thought leader out there. And
I haven't been called this, thank you. It's really flattering.
Common sense is something that is missing around the world. I want to take care of the disproportionately impacted people, the people that pay the bills, the people that can't afford it. It just doesn't make sense to me to have energy policies that don't take care of people.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
What's next for you? What's around the corner? Are you just enjoying being a freelance writer?
Oh yes, that's enough for now. I have plenty of work and I love it, which is the most important thing, which is why I went freelance to begin with. I wanted to do something I enjoyed.
Yep.
Because this is the only way to do a good job, I think. Well, if you enjoy what you're doing.
Oh, again, thank you so much, Irina. And
thank you for having me.
Your information from Bulgaria is absolutely fabulous, and your European information. I learned a lot from you today. I hope you can come back again sometime.
I'm happy to. It's been a pleasure, Stu.
Thank you very much.